welcome you all. Some of you have come from faraway places. Dan has come all the way from the United States. And Dan is the president, co-chairperson of Freedom from Religion Foundation, one of the outstanding organizations in the United States. And also in the evening, we are going to hear him singing secular songs and playing piano. And tomorrow is his major speech coming up. Here on the dais we have Nina Sankari. Nina Sankari is a great fighter in Poland, in one of the most dangerous countries at this moment in Europe, in the sense that it is going backwards. Like when most of Europe is going in a different direction, Poland is going in a different direction. That's what probably she is quite concerned about, and she is heading Kashmirsky Foundation. Kashmirsky is one of the first known atheists or freethinkers in Poland's history, who was persecuted and killed. And every year they reenact the whole process of how he was persecuted, and they honor as a theater. And there is an event at that time. I've attended at least 2 times in their event, and she will be speaking again today. 3 o'clock she's speaking. And Michael Nugent heads the Atheist Ireland. And you know that Ireland is, on the contrary, that from Poland, Ireland is going in a different direction. That is the first country in this century which had a new blasphemy law, which they got reversed. Abortion was illegal there, and that was changed. And as a movement which was spearheading these major campaigns, of course these are big political campaigns as well, but the opinion makers, the whistleblowers of the whole movement is this group of people who are articulate and present everywhere and making their point. And you will be speaking, I think tomorrow, today, this morning he's speaking. So the opening is planned in a very different way. It's not one person who's opening, but 5 minutes each, all of us will speak. And together, we all stand up and clap, and the session begins. May I invite Dan Parker?
Thank you, Sanal. So I'm co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and we work to keep state and church separate and to educate the public about the views of non-theists. And this is my first visit to Cambridge. Thank you for the invitation. And I also went to Manchester and Liverpool this week, my first time in the Northwest. And as I was coming down from Liverpool, it was the hottest day of the year here, of course, and I got to London and they said, well, what do you expect when the devil comes to town? You know, it's going to be hot. So we had a heat wave last week in Wisconsin. Our national headquarters is in Madison, Wisconsin. And on the hottest day of the year in Wisconsin, 2 of the power plants exploded and caught fire, and it destroyed the service to thousands of people. And that evening, the religious right, some of the bloggers and TV were saying, well, that's because your Democratic governor overturned the abortion restrictions, and God is angry about abortion, and that's why he caused those fires. And however, our building, which is 2 blocks from the Capitol, nothing happened to us. We had our power, we had our electricity, everything. So God must like the atheists to protect. Earlier this month, I went to a reunion of a whole bunch of my former Christian missionary, evangelist, pastor friends from back in the 1960s and 1970s. That was quite strange. They know me now. They know I'm an atheist. But I wanted to catch up with my old friends from way back when we used to travel all over Mexico and the United States preaching. And it was a fun 2 days. It really was. We talked about our families and our histories 50 years later, you know. And one thing that struck me was that after 50 years, except for me, not one of them had changed one bit. They were exactly the same. They had the same views, the same prayers to Jesus. I excused myself when they prayed, you know. And we had some good conversation, and they're good people, but I was getting so, I guess, hungry for some intellectual talk. They didn't talk about any books, they didn't talk about any ideas, they didn't talk about any issues. It was just sort of, basic. And I noticed a total lack of curiosity, a total lack of interest in anything. I would have thought they would have asked me a question, now you're an atheist, why? Instead they just said, we're praying for you, Dan. That was it, And so I'm wondering, so that leads me to a question that I have in this conference here, which is really going to be a lot more fun than that. I'm not putting those people down, they're good people, but I'm just so surprised that there's a whole segment of the world that lacks the curiosity and the drive to know and learn. They just are happy. Somehow this religion is meeting their needs in some way, or else they wouldn't, somehow they're happy with it. So I have a question for myself during this conference, not necessarily for you, but just a question that I have in my mind, and maybe you can help me with it as well. Why is that? Why are there so many people in the world? We're going to give some great talks and we're going to learn some important things here, but they're not here, they're not listening, they don't view this video, they're not going to read the books, and we're not going to barge into their churches, obviously, and try to force them, you have to think like us. But what can we do? What can we do to spark the love for learning within their minds, to make it so attractive to them that they'll want to do what I did when I was a minister and go, I want to learn, I want to know more, I want to engage in critical thinking. And maybe that's the word, critical. Because if you are an obedient servant of a master, you can't be critical. To them, critical means blasphemy or rebellion. And you and I, we love blasphemy and rebellion. We love critical. We want more. We want to be told that we're wrong. We're open to that. It gives us goosebumps, I think, to learn on. But they don't. They want to just follow their Lord, I guess. And I'm trying to think, what could I do? What should I have done? I could have gone to that reunion with a bunch of arguments and information and data, and here's why you're wrong. Would that have made any difference to them? Maybe one of them, but I'm going to be listening during this conference and very eagerly to what everyone else has to say about the importance of critical thinking and the importance of rebellious thinking, like Kazimierz in Poland. He gave his life for the critical thinking. So I'd like to thank you for the invitation and glad to see all of you.
Good morning. Before I start, I would like to raise a question we cannot discuss now, but still I would like to raise this question. How those people could be good knowing all the evil, all the bad things all the religions are doing to the humanity? So, for me, it would be the main question to raise the conscience of people about this very question. People cannot be good accepting all what religion are doing, all the harm of religion. And now I will continue. So, as it was said, I'm coming from Poland. The country that still 30 years ago was a part of so-called communist camp and was considered, at least formally, the atheist state. And 30 years later, we are what Sanal said, and it's a real confessional state. How it is possible? How it happened? I will speak about it more during my speech in the afternoon, but still now I would like to say that what happened in Poland, what was supposed to be a democratic change, it was so-called democratic transformation, was done at the price of the heavy clericalization of all the life in Poland, all the spheres of life in Poland, and it was the price that all the politicians from right to left were ready to pay as an invoice to the church for its undeniable contribution to overthrowing the so-called communist regime. So what we have now, it's not a democracy, it's the democracy which is being destroyed step by step with all the institutions, like, for example, judiciary system, with the rights of women's rights destroyed, with the rights of LGBT people destroyed, atheists, and so on and so far. So we are now in the period where the real dictatorship, the real autocratic regime is being installed in Poland. How it is possible? Again, people are taking streets to protest and to fight for democracy, in defense of democracy. And 30 years before, they've been fighting for this change. How was it possible to turn it so much? It was done mainly because of the sacrosanct alliance of church and state. But one of the main reasons is this Catholic nationalist fundamentalism incited by the church but executed by the state, and behind all this we have the capital, which is the big beneficiary of this change. Now, my question would be, apart this one that I already raised, would be that I understand that what we have in Poland, the real socialism failed, and rightly failed, I understand it, but doesn't mean that we have to accept the society, the system based on greed, based on hatred, based on wild concurrence, on destroying human rights, women's rights, etc. Now, in Poland, and as I know elsewhere and in other places, it is somehow oldish to speak about progress. Progressive become the word which doesn't sound very good, at least in this part of Europe. I'm speaking about those ex-communist countries, but I think that the same development in the Western countries as well. The far right is in rise, etc. So I remember that I pronounced the word emancipation during Emancipation of Humanity during one of the conferences, and I heard in answer, it was in French, l'émancipation, on en a fait. We've done it already. I think that when we give up utopia, it's a dystopia knock on our doors. So I think that we have or reinvent a utopia, or at least stick strongly, firmly to those basic rights of human rights and basic ideals of humanity, of even if it is just an utopia for this time being, of living in brotherhood, in peace, in social justice, and in this direction. How and what could be done for it? It's a long story to say, but I think that we really need of a popular education, and you have to do it. And we need to create more of our own media based on these very basic fundamental ideals, and also maybe some very specific measures. During our last Atheist Days, we announced the creation of the citizens tribunal for judging religious crimes, and we invite you to take part in it. And also, speaking about this popular education, maybe it would be good to create a network of atheists, rationalists, or whatever, freethinkers, schools, maybe even universities, to have this tool to change the mentalities. And thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me here today, Sanal, and for inviting everybody else. Ireland has changed a lot in the last 10 years, and I would characterise it as the people have moved on and we're trying to get the state to catch up with that progress. When Atheist Ireland was founded, the task was much more fundamental. It was really, actually was starting off just trying to normalise using words like atheist and secular, which were usually used as insults rather than as descriptive terms or positive terms. And just because it arose in a discussion over breakfast, I'm going to share just a small anecdote with you about what Ireland was like then. And it involved a woman who died in County Donegal, which is in the north, a very conservative part of Ireland, near the border with Northern Ireland. And this is maybe 10 or more years ago. She couldn't, her son couldn't bury her because all the local graveyards were owned by either Catholic or Protestant churches. And so none of them would take the body because she was an atheist. So he had to move her body across the border to Northern Ireland, to Derry, where they had a municipal graveyard, and they took the body there and buried it. And one of the newspapers in Ireland was following up on the story, and they ran up the municipal graveyard in Derry. And the graveyard was explaining the situation. They said, yeah, we'll take any bodies here, you know, we've different sections for Catholics and Protestants and so on. And the newspaper asked them, well, how many bodies do you have in the atheist section? And they said, oh, we don't have an atheist section. We put her in the Protestants. So that's what Ireland was like, north and south, a relatively short time ago. But it's moved on considerably now. And I'll go over in more detail in my talk later this morning about the specifics of Ireland. But the key thing is the importance of the state being neutral between religious and non-religious beliefs. One of the points that we've made consistently in our campaigning is that we would be just as opposed to the state promoting atheism as we are to the state promoting religion. It's important that the state respects everybody's right to freedom of religion and belief, and the only way to do that equally for everybody is for the state to be secular. But I'll go into, as I say, I'll go into that a little more in my talk this morning. But I want to close this comment by saying that what we're gathering here today to discuss is not just atheism and not just secularism, because there are also going to be talks this weekend about, challenging pseudoscience and various other areas like that. But what unites all of this, and I think this, in fact, is the underlying problem of religion. Religion itself isn't the problem. Religion is one example of the problem of faith and dogma. And by faith, I mean believing things disproportionately to the currently best available evidence. And by dogma, I mean believing things without questioning them. And certainly if you're forced to believe them without questioning them. So I think that's what we all have in common today, is that we're challenging faith and dogma. And we are trying to replace faith and dogma with reason, by applying reason to the best available evidence. And that's not only good in terms of understanding reality, but it leads us to a more rational morality as well. A morality that's based on empathy and compassion and cooperation and reciprocity and fairness and justice, rather than on telling people to do things because somebody wrote something down 2,000 years ago. So I think those are the common threads of our discussions this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody's talks, and thank you again, Sanal, for inviting me.
When we had the first International Rationalist Conference in 1995 in India, one of the first questions that I heard from everybody is, why a rationalist conference? Why not a Freethinkers conference? Some other people ask, why not a humanist conference? Why not a skeptic conference? So I always used to tell them that I would consider myself a skeptic always. I mean, if I'm a skeptic, yes, I am a skeptic. And are you a humanist? Yes, I am a humanist. I'm an atheist, very clearly. I'm a freethinker. And so what should a term mean? I mean, the nomenclature, for me at least, or when we organized the whole structure from 1995 onwards, the nomenclature is of no importance to me, or I mean the group that is organizing these kind of events. What we consider is the people, the secularists, freethinkers, atheists, humanists, all those who are on this side of the fence, of reason, are all one. We should have an inclusive approach of understanding each other and cooperating each other. That's the spirit of the whole thing. So we would call it a rationalist summit because when we started, we have a tradition. History has a role in playing all these names. We have a tradition of the rationalist movement in India because it has been mainly a British tradition that we followed. So we call our organization the Indian Rationalist Association and Rationalist International. But I have a publishing company which has the name Indian Atheist Publishers. I mean, also, I always consider or speak myself as a secularist. So the term is too less important. I would only say that specialization or focus of attention can be different for people. For example, skeptic movements mainly focus on claims of paranormal. That's one work which we all do. Some other people would fight for secularism, separation of state and religion, or keeping religion and faith out of public arena. So this is all part of one broad framework. We are all in the same ship. That's the spirit of Rationalist International. So I would like to see that I don't want to fight with anybody about a name. I never would like to see that we all fight on titles and names, but we all are standing on the side of science, on the side of progress, on the side of moving forward, and that's what it is. So the spirit is that we all are together on one side of the fence fighting the gigantic monster on the other side. That's the spirit that we have. And with this small statement, we all together would declare that